And I think I've finally got us through our final list. This will be just a very quick yes or no. For the most part, we'll go in reverse order with Mr. Munafo and then back over. The town manager has said that he would consider staying if he was asked to. Would you encourage him to return to the position? And Mr. Munafo, we will stay with you. I think we know what your answer may be. But.
Well, it's a really political type of question. My personal belief is that no, he won't return. He's received a very good deal, one that he actually generated, one that he moved forward with, and that he has now ended up signing. For him to say he's willing to come back if things change in Barnstable, I think if they did change, he still won't come back.
Mr. Hersey, would you support the return of Mr. Klim?
One word answer would be yes. You know, we go on and on, but I think in a nutshell the answer is yes, and I haven't heard anything that convinces me that the 6 that want him out have a legitimate reason.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Richardson?
Yes, I definitely would like to see him come back.
Okay. I'll ask for the discretion of our organizers. Would we like to go a few more moments? We're almost at 8 o'clock right now. Is everyone okay with maybe a question more or two so we can, is everyone okay with that? Our panelists, are you okay with a few more moments here? Will allow us to get in a couple of more questions?
Maybe then a summation. Maybe.
That'd be fine, absolutely. The question here, this was a general question about your thoughts about making Barnstable a more fiscally responsible community. And if you gentlemen would help me out here. We think we started with Mr. Richardson. You finished with our last question, so why don't we start with you? What would you be doing to make Barnstable a more fiscally responsible community?
For starters, I think we should consider asking John come back. That would save us a tremendous amount right off the bat. I mean, fiscally, year to year, things change. Budgets go up, budgets go down. It's difficult to stay within those budgets for the most part, knowing how much communities need and want to keep their communities places that people want to visit, live, and kind of bring up a family, I guess you could say. I think we really need to focus on that, keep our budgets, maybe beat our budgets so we can start saving some money. I know that sounds crazy, but it's possible. And I think different ideas and some change might put that in perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Mr. Hersey, making Barnstable more fiscally responsible. How would you do it?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I would say from just a knee-jerk reaction is that, you know, the budgets don't have to go up 2.5% every year. You know, I understand escalating payroll costs and insurance costs and all of the attendant expenses that go along with running a town, but it shouldn't just be rubber stamped. Having said that, you know, I'm not. We hear an awful lot about a very high bond rating, and so at that stage, I think Mr. Klim has done a good job to maintain our fiscal responsibility, and at least in the eyes of the people that rate the town bonds. So I think Mr. Klim in that regard should be supported. I think, and I think the town council should maybe have a little more say in just signing over 2.5% every year. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hersey. Mr. Munafo, making Barnstable more fiscally responsible.
One of the fortes of John Klim was his ability to help bring things under control when it came to finance. And he's hired good people like Mark Milne, who just really understand the process. And we are doing a good job. But I think you've heard it talked about Proposition 2.5, and that's one of the things for me is really to be on top of how we spend money. And right now, we currently don't take a vote every year on whether or not the budget should go up 2.5%. And I want to facilitate that. There hasn't been any play for that on the council in the past. But the taxes, regardless of regarding appraisals go up, and so it changes taxes. but we've raised taxes 20% over the 8 years that I've been there as a town councilor. And is that reasonable? To me, I don't think that that should go laissez-faire. We should be looking at that on an individual year, time after time, on whether or not 2.5% is the right figure to use. And so I support voting on Proposition 2.5 and raising 2.5% every year. Now we have, the council has a policy in place, and within that policy, it goes to the 2.5% is included. But I'd like to see the council have a say in exactly what happens, and that's the best way that we can do something on the council when it comes to fiscal matters.
All right, thank you. I've got a couple more here I think we'll be able to get through. We'll stay with you, Mr. Munafo, and continue in reverse order once again. This one is directed towards you, and then we can have the other two challengers respond to it. The question to you is, could you explain why you vote against federal grants even when they fund police department or elementary schools, your opposition to accepting federal grants on the town council?
There's a number of reasons why, but when it comes to federal grants, the Constitution, which empowers the federal government, has no place that it allows the federal government to give us any money directly here to our communities to run operations. I have accepted federal grants and still will continue to do so for things like the airport, where the federal government has direct hands into what happens and the say that goes on out there. So federal aviation airspace to me makes sense. But we should be able to live within our own budget here. We shouldn't be relying on other monies available to us from an outside source. We should be able to do the job and live within our means. The federal government has no ability to be able to give us money directly. This Commonwealth of Massachusetts does, which is why I accept those grants.
On the issue of accepting federal grants, Mr. Richardson.
I guess I only have a couple quick questions regarding grants. Wait, can you? Is it more
Sure.
so?
Well, the question was directed to Mr. Munafo. He, as a member of the council, he votes against federal grants
Yes.
that come before them. So I guess to you would be, what would you do? I guess is pretty much what we'd like to know from you then.
Well, grants are certain things you learn starting applying to colleges. That, in my experience, grants are money that you receive from federal, states, and whatever it may be, and you don't have to pay them back. That's great for a younger generation like myself, not only to help us benefit ourselves in learning more things and getting out in the community, but also giving us the opportunity to make some money and put some savings away to live in the communities where we want to live. As far as grants go, regarding the town council, I'm not too familiar with the past year or so of grants, but one in particular I am is the recent town council. I don't understand why we would vote against or anybody would vote against a grant for a police department in a town that has issues with crime and violence, and it's one of our major topics that needs to be focused on so this community can be a better place to live.
Thank you, Mr. Hersey. Federal grants.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I think Mr. Munafo's position is inconsistent in the sense that he doesn't want to take federal grants because they don't come through the state, and he advocates less government, but he's advocating running it through the state, where arguably there'd have to be another layer of government. He's talking about 20% increases in taxes, but turning down free money. He's talking about the problems that this town faces and how we're struggling, and we're not going to take free money, but I'll spend $250,000 to get rid of a manager that up until 6 months ago was doing a fine job. So federal grants, I'm all for them.
Matt,
And I will allow a rebuttal, a
Thank you.
response there. 60 seconds, please.
when you hear the term free money, what are we really saying? When we accept a federal grant, and with the debt that we're in the federal government, I just had a grandson. And when I accept a federal grant, I'm asking him to pay our debt. That's who's got to come through with the money. Him and maybe his children, so I can say today, I can take that free money. There's nothing that's free, and we have a responsibility to live within our means.
Any further rebuttal response? Mr. Richardson, looks like you're leaning towards the microphone.
Yes. Also, with grants, in my experience, they give out a certain amount based on budgets, and hierarchies make these budgets, and I just don't understand how you can turn down a grant and how they go through the process, and if you do turn it down, it's just going to go somewhere else. So, I mean, why not accept it and use it in ways that we could really need it?
All right, and then our final question. Please, Mr. Armstrong.
Thanks. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Munafo's original contention was that there's no provision for it in the Constitution to take the money. And to use a technical term, and he's a four-corner interpreting the Constitution. I think my personal opinion is that he's not saying that I don't want the money. He's saying that it has to come through a different mechanism. So it's not we don't want it. It's just that you haven't offered it to me in the right manner. So I disagree with that.
I will allow.
And thank you, Matt. It isn't that we can't take the money. It's that the federal government doesn't have the authority to even offer it to you. That's what the federal government doesn't have the ability or any thrust to move forward with that in the Constitution. And so taking money, coming through the state, those are the things that we're designed to do, and we can work within that.
All right, Mr. Richardson. All right, one more quick rebuttal.
I just had a quick question. I'm not too familiar with this, and I am doing research as we speak. But when it comes to federal grants, who makes the decision on where they go if the federal government doesn't?
Who would you like to direct that to?
Mr. Munafo.
Okay.
I guess I don't understand the question.
Well, could you maybe just make that question a little more clear, Mr. Richardson?
Sorry, I can't think of that at the moment.
Okay.